ready?
Yeah.
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
He's a great guy.
Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHAL.
You know, I've never traded a cryptocurrency, even though I've, been a professional trader for most of my life. I haven't made a trade in several years, and I'm really happy about it. So I've never traded Bitcoin. But lots of people love trading this thing. Some people invest in it. And right now it's trading about 10,000. A few days ago, it was closer to 12,000. It's all over the place. But lots of people have made, and some people have lost, plenty of money in Bitcoin. But one of the interesting things about it, one of the various aspects of it as a cryptocurrency, is that it's a little bit harder for government and other people to keep track of. If you're messing around in Bitcoin, depending on how you do it, it might not be that easy for the IRS to get a handle on what you're doing. And for you, that might be a big positive about all of that. I'm not going to get into your particular relationship with the IRS, but you know what I'm talking about. Now, the IRS has been cracking down on this a little bit, trying to get some information about people holding Bitcoin and trying to tax people and all that. So the IRS has actually gone after and is now being sued by a Bitcoin investor in New Hampshire after the IRS started digging into this person's digital currency holdings. Joining us to talk about all of this and the aspects of it that will expand beyond just this one lawsuit, but what this might really mean to everybody who messes around or invests in or trades in cryptocurrencies. Adi Dinar is litigation counsel with the New Civil Liberties Alliance, their website, ncalegal.org. Many years of experience protecting people's civil liberties and leading in constitutional law cases. Hey, good morning, Adi. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what did the IRS do that is causing this Bitcoin investor to file a lawsuit against them?
So in August of 2019, IRS had kind of sent all of these letters to almost 10,000 individuals who had owned cryptocurrency at some point, and they claimed that all of these people needed to pay taxes. Now, of course, people like James Harper, who is my client, have paid all applicable taxes and will diligently continue to do so even on cryptocurrency. But IRS is claiming that they have obtained information from some third parties on these transactions that they are not disclosing. Now, the problem with that is that the IRS did not go through their usual process to obtain subpoenas and judicial warrants to obtain this information. So it's really troubling that IRS has all of this information and where it received this information from.
So did the IRS get this stuff from Coinbase or elsewhere, or we don't know?
We don't know. I mean, we suspect that it's either the cryptocurrency exchanges that gave this information to IRS. But I think what more likely happened was that IRS just saw all of these tax returns filed by individuals who have owned or traded cryptocurrency, and they are just sending these letters out to all of those individuals, regardless of the individual circumstances of each case.
All right, let's take a step back from the details of the case for a second. I just want to make sure that we don't assume that everybody understands everything that we're talking about here. So I think most people know about Bitcoin, basically a digital currency that you can buy and sell online versus dollars or yen or euros or any other currency. But I wonder if you could explain briefly, Adi, what Coinbase is and other companies like Coinbase so that people understand what we're talking about.
Sure. So all of these crypto exchanges are essentially online stores where you can buy and sell cryptocurrency. So it's Bitcoin and some other virtual currencies like Bitcoin. So you can buy and trade and sell cryptocurrency online using these exchanges. And of course, all of these exchanges are regulated by the relevant federal agencies, and all of these transactions are reported on the tax returns. So the information is not something that's that's kind of kept secret from the government. It's all available to the government from if it uses legal channels to obtain it. Now here the problem is that IRS has used illegal channels to obtain this information from third parties. So essentially they're claiming this unbridled authority to demand and seize Americans' private financial information from third parties without any judicial process whatsoever.
Okay, so two quick follow-ups then. So in this aspect, does Coinbase function a little bit at least like a traditional brokerage firm where a person would, let's say, buy some Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, sell it, and then Coinbase issues a 1099-B or some similar form that shows at least the proceeds realized from the sale?
So the whole transaction and all of the transactions that happen on these websites are specifically spelled out in the individual contracts that companies like Coinbase, Abra, Uphold have entered with their customers. And one of the main aspects of this contract is that they will not divulge private financial information of the customers without some government agency going through the valid channels. And that's really the problem here, because what we're seeing with cases like this is that IRS is claiming that the U.S. Constitution's Fourth and Fifth Amendments do not apply to the IRS, which is sort of bizarre.
Okay, I'm still trying to get a handle on this one thing, though. So let's say your client buys some Bitcoin or transfers some Bitcoin that he already has into Coinbase and then sells it. Does Coinbase automatically, by default, report to the IRS the way that a brokerage firm would automatically report to the IRS the proceeds of a sale? Or is that up to the customer to decide whether to report to the IRS?
So it is. So the reporting is a bit complex in these situations, but essentially what happens is if you make any money off of these transactions, then capital gains taxes are something that the customer has to disclose on their tax returns. And here we have a situation where Mr. Harper and other people like him have paid all of those capital gains taxes.
My special guest, Adi Dinar, with the New Civil Liberties Alliance, NCLA Legal.org. So his client is now suing the IRS. I think it's fascinating that the IRS won't tell you where they got the information that they are, using to at least apparently harass Mr. Harper. But what exactly is the IRS asking for?
The IRS is claiming essentially that the people who have diligently paid taxes owe more taxes to the IRS, and they just don't have any legal basis to make that claim at the moment. And at least they should be telling us, what legal processes they used in obtaining this information. Because they have several ways in which they can obtain this information. They can obtain a valid subpoena. They can obtain a court order. They can obtain a judicial warrant based on probable cause. But at this point, they aren't telling us how they obtained this information and what is their basis for claiming that people like Mr. Harper owe taxes.
So do you know for a fact that they didn't go through those legal processes, that they didn't get a warrant or a subpoena, or are they just simply not saying how they got it, and you're trying to get them to prove whether they got it legally or not?
At this point, they simply are not saying how they got it. So that's one of the things we're trying to figure out, is how did they accomplish this.
And has Coinbase said whether the IRS came to them? Because if they got it some other way, it's hard to imagine how any other way would be legal.
Right. So, for example, Mr. Harper had traded Bitcoin on 3 separate exchanges since 2013, and one of those exchanges, Uphold, has confirmed that they did not reveal this information to IRS. So we know at least one of those three exchanges has not shared this private financial information with the IRS. So the other companies could do the same. I mean, they could look at their internal records and confirm or deny at that point. But really the issue here is IRS harassing either of these exchanges or people like Mr. Harper in obtaining all of this information through illegal channels. And that's troubling because, if anything, federal agencies, like any government agency, should be held to the laws that are already in place, like the subpoena authority, the warrant requirement.
All right, and this is sort of a technical legal question, but let's say the IRS intended to go through a legal channel, just as a hypothetical. I don't necessarily mean in your guys' case, but is the IRS allowed to go to one of these companies that would transact in Bitcoin for you or hold them and demand records without probable cause to believe that something has been reported wrong? Can they just do it as an ordinary course of their operations? We're saying, well, it doesn't matter whether you reported it wrong. We're just entitled to all the information no matter what?
Actually, no, because there are specific statutes that require IRS to jump through all of these hoops. So, for example, if they are trying to obtain this information from third parties, they're required to notify the actual person whose information they are seeking. So in this instance, for example, I mean, if they're seeking, Mr. and Mrs. Smith's information, they needed to notify Mr. and Mrs. Smith that they're trying to obtain that information from a third party. And then there is a statutory requirement that Mr. and Mrs. Smith, in that circumstance, have the opportunity to contest IRS's claim that they have probable cause to obtain this information. So there's definitely statutory mechanisms or hoops that IRS has to jump through before they can obtain this information from these crypto exchanges, and they have done none of that here.
Interesting. So what's the next step, and what do you think the timing is of it?
So in a few weeks, we are waiting for the IRS to respond to our complaint, and at that point, discovery would potentially open, and then we would be able to find out exactly how they obtained this information.
One listener asks whether what you're talking about is more in a potential sort of criminal kind of channel versus a civil kind of channel with the process the IRS seems to be using.
So this is a civil proceeding. So anytime IRS tries to obtain information, they still have to comply with the Fourth Amendment search and seizure and probable cause requirement. But the proceeding itself, the proceeding to obtain information, in our case, contesting IRS's illegal obtaining of this information, are both civil in nature.
Very interesting. Folks, you can learn more about the new Civil Liberties Alliance, where Adi Dinar is a litigator in constitutional law, at nclalegal.org. Adi, thanks so much for spending some time with us. A really interesting story, and it impacts thousands or tens of thousands of people. So good luck, and let's keep in touch. I'd love to learn what happens with this case.
Thanks, Ross. I would be happy to be back.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Adi.